You know, I have a theory. You can tell how terrible a government is by how awful the cars are that the citizens are driving. Take Cuba, for instance. I did this search for Cuban cars. I didn't even look to see, I didn't even do a search for old Cuban cars, old beater Cuban cars. I just did a search for Cuban cars, and this is what you got. These old 1957 Chevys, for the most part, they have been refurbished. They have to keep these things on the road forever because communism. They're a third of I can't even speak. Their authoritarian government makes it impossible for the free market to reach the Cuban people, so they're stuck driving these cars. This is not a swap meet. These are not resto mods. These are daily drivers. The Cuban people are stuck with this crap because of their horrible government. But guess what? The Biden admin, if they have their way come 2026, we're going to be jealous of the Cuban people. Let's talk about it. Hello, everyone. This is Keith. Welcome to the Ghetto Sapien channel. It's 2023. This is my first podcast of the year, and we're here for Inner City Intelligence. I am your source. So let's talk about the latest news. Well, this is actually kind of old news. It's just that people seem to have just discovered this section of the infrastructure bill that was signed in 2021 that will start affecting us in 2026. What is this thing? This is what it's all about. Former Congressman Bob Barr, he's former Congressman of Georgia, actually. He's kind of libertarian, much in the vein of Rand Paul. I used to follow Bob Barr. He was on the radio here. Cool guy. Again, libertarian, so he's anti-government for the most part, and that got my attention. So he wrote an article about Biden's infrastructure bill contains backdoor kill switch for cars. Let's get into it. Buried deep within the massive infrastructure legislation recently signed by President Joe Biden is a little noticed safety measure that will take effect in 5 years, well, now 3. This was written in 2021. Marketed to Congress as the benign tool to help prevent drunk driving, the measure will mandate that automobile manufacturers build into every car what amounts to a vehicle kill switch. As has become standard for legislative mandates passed by Congress, this measure is disturbingly short on details. What we do know is that the safety device must passively monitor the performance of a driver. What we do know is that the safety device must passively monitor the performance of a driver of a motor vehicle to accurately identify whether that driver may be impaired. Everything about this mandatory measure should set off red flares. First, the use of passively suggests that the system will always be on, constantly monitoring the vehicle and the driver. Secondly, the system must connect to the driver's operational controls so as to disable the vehicle either before driving, during, or whenever the impairment is detected. Again, either before you drive or during driving. If it detects something's wrong, it's going to stop the car. Thirdly, it will be in an open system, or at least with a back door, meaning that authorized or unauthorized third parties can remotely access the system's data at any time. So, yeah, the kill switch, kill switch, which is going to be mandatory in 2026, could end up making us look like Cuba, where no one is going to buy a brand new car after 2026. We're going to be kicking around in Hyundais and Yugos, maybe, just driving those things till the wheels fall off of it. I know, look, if the kill switch thing actually goes through, we still got some years to just maybe someone will defund it, maybe Republican Congress wouldn't hang my hat on that though. But maybe won't go through. But if it does, yeah, like I said, I think you're gonna see a lot of older beaters on the road because people just won't go for it. America and Americans equate their individual cars with freedom. The United States, our cities and the country itself was built around the car and the highway. This is completely unlike Europe, which is mostly built around the cities. You can bike around them, you can walk around them. They're not as spread out as cities in the United States. They're connected by a very good rail system, so you can live in Europe with just smaller cars. You don't need cars to drive, great distances like you do here. So they're less. Freedom is less associated with cars in Europe than they are here in the United States. So that's why I don't think this thing's gonna go over well. There's so many things that can go wrong. But before I carry on, I found an article that kind of steelmans Bob Barr's argument and people who are concerned about the remote kill switch that a cop or maybe a member of the FBI can just click on and shut your car down. There's a counter article I found here, and I'll leave the link in the chat below. Anyway, it says Biden's infrastructure bill doesn't give police access to a remote kill switch in cars. Biden's infrastructure deal requires drunk driving prevention technology in new cars, but police won't have access to a remote kill switch. Let's see. So it says, people who think that cops will be able to shut your car off at a whim, that's misleading. Now, note, it doesn't say it's a complete lie or completely wrong. You just say it's misleading. And why? Because according to the article, it says that even though you'll be monitored constantly, they'll be checking to see if you're impaired. They'll check your eyes, they'll check your head movements, things like that, see if you're still aware with a little camera. It's checking to see, it's true that it's going to check to see, if you're impaired, and it doesn't say what an impaired is. And both articles agree that there's nothing in the legislature that says what impaired is. So it could be that you had one too many martinis. Maybe you got fentanyl in your system. Maybe you got Sudafed. You had too much Sudafed, and that's impaired. Maybe you made a statement on Twitter about Fauci and COVID. That's impaired. Any of those reasons, it can just shut off your car. That is not disputed by the argument, the counter argument, the quote unquote fact check to what Bob Barr said about the kill switch. Where it differs is where Bob Barr says this data that it collects on you, that feds or anyone else can have access to. The counter argument is that it's a sealed system, so no cop, nobody outside of the car will be able to stop your car. It's all within the system that's contained within the car, meaning it's an algorithm. It was bad enough when you were say under the influence, or at least at the whim of the algorithm. Whenever you use Google, DuckDuckGo, whenever you go on Facebook, whenever you go on Instagram or Twitter, you are at the whim of the algorithm. Then now they're moving it to your car, so your car can decide that, well, shouldn't be driving today. You're either drunk, or I don't like your attitude, or your social credit score isn't up to the par. You're impaired, so you can't drive today, or you can't drive more than 50 miles away from your home because of global warming. All these things can be just software updates away from locking your ass down and taking control away from. Taking your car's control away from you. Which begs the question, if the algorithm can override the driver, who owns the car? Are you renting the car? Is it like just software that you Like when you get Office 365, you don't really own it. You're just renting it on a weekly, monthly, or annual basis. You don't really own the thing itself. Is that what we're doing with cars now? That's what this is going to turn it into. That's what it sounds like. Also, just like any piece of software, it can be hacked. What if some guys hack your car, you're a woman, and they make it drive someplace with a, where you're not going to be near the cops? What if they lock you in your car, override your algorithm that way? They make it run off the road. What if your algorithm's impaired and your car gets into an accident? I mean, is it going to be the manufacturer's problem? Is it going to be your insurance is going to pay for it? I mean, these are all things that it doesn't seem like they really thought through. And that's because they're in such a rush to control every part of your life. They don't really think these things through. The main goal is just to control where you move and what you think and what you do. And nowadays, it's going to control where you go and where you drive. I think this is a terrible idea. There are so many unintended consequences that are just waiting for us. But all I know is I'm sticking to my old 350Z, and if this goes through, like I said, I am not buying another new car beyond 2026. Maybe the value of my old car will go up. Maybe that's a good thing. But those are my thoughts on this. What's yours? Like, share, comment, and subscribe.